Welcome to the deep dive. What if the mythical fountain of youth wasn't a myth at all, but maybe a line of code? Today, we're not just dreaming about immortality. We're asking if artificial intelligence, AI, can actually deliver it. And, well, what that could mean for who we are and maybe even how we cope with loss.
Exactly. We're diving deep into two really intertwined concepts,
Hmm.
mind uploading and digital immortality.
Hmm.
Can technology truly let us transcend our biological limits, give us an infinite future?
That's the core question.
It is, and that's precisely what we'll explore. This deep dive, it's going to uncover the cutting-edge technological advancements in AI that make these ideas seem, well, plausible. We'll also delve into the profound philosophical challenges they bring up, and then confront the immediate, very human impact this is already having on how we deal with grief in our, increasingly digital world.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we've really plunged into an incredible range of sources. I mean, everything from dense academic papers talking about the hard problems of transhumanism to really fascinating articles on how AI is already changing the way we grieve. So our mission today is to try and extract the most important insights to help you navigate this fascinating and sometimes, let's be honest, unsettling frontier.
Definitely unsettling at times.
So, okay, let's dive into this core idea then, this grand ambition of mind uploading. What is it fundamentally?
Well, at its heart, it's a key concept within transhumanism. The goal is basically a virtual form of immortality. The idea is transferring a person's consciousness, their entire identity, onto digital substrates. Essentially moving your mind into a computer.
Moving your mind into a computer. And there's a roadmap for this, right? It's not just waving a magic wand.
No, not at all. The proposed roadmap is pretty specific. It involves, first, high-resolution brain scanning, really detailed scanning, followed by programming that scanned brain structure to, well, wake up in a virtual environment. Think of it like creating a complete digital map of your brain, neuron by neuron, connection by connection.
Wow.
Yeah. And you'll often hear terms like whole brain emulation or substrate-independent minds,
Substrate-independent minds.
meaning the mind wouldn't be tied to any specific material like our biological brain. It could exist on different substrates or platforms,
Yeah.
silicon, perhaps.
The appeal of this is just incredibly powerful, isn't it? I mean, you can see why people are drawn to it. It's seen as a way to escape the body's physical limitations, right? To achieve a form of digital immortality and bypass the undeniable reality that we're finite.
Absolutely. And that aspiration feels even more potent when you consider that, especially in places like Western Europe, fewer people now seem to believe in traditional religious ideas of eternal life. So this technology offers a kind of alternative narrative for a continuation, a new kind of eternal maybe.
And it's not just theory anymore.
Not at all. This very desire is fueling a burgeoning industry. People call it the digital afterlife industry, or sometimes grief tech. These startups, they promise to essentially clone a person's personality using their vast digital footprint.
Their digital footprint, you mean like emails and texts?
Everything. Messages, photos, videos, voice notes, music libraries, even movement profiles from your phone, calendar entries, all that data. It's used to create incredibly sophisticated chatbots and avatars, digital versions of people.
And the examples of this are already out there, and some are incredibly compelling, almost raw emotionally, like that case from a Korean TV show where a mother was reunited with a highly realistic avatar of her deceased 7-year-old daughter, Neon, in VR.
Yes, I remember reading about that.
Very powerful. And the avatar even said, "Mom, where have you been? Have you been thinking about me?" Imagine hearing that.
It's hard to imagine.
And that kind of interaction is exactly what companies like YOV, that's you, only virtual, are aiming for. They promise these 3D versions of loved ones for what they call genuine interactions. Then there's the Hereafter app, which apparently can create a personalized chatbot from just a few questions and some uploaded audio files and story file for interactive avatars. It's not abstract science fiction anymore. These services exist now.
They do. It's moving fast.
But okay, here's where the deeper questions really hit you, isn't it? As fascinating as this tech sounds, it immediately forces us to confront some profoundly philosophical dilemmas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one core challenge, philosophically speaking, is that mind uploading often relies on what's called a functionalist view of the mind.
Functionalism, meaning
It basically assumes consciousness can just be transferred between different substrates, from a biological brain to a digital one, because it's all about the function of the processing, not the material itself. But critics argue this completely fails to address what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness.
The hard problem. That's the
Yeah.
subjective feeling, right? What it's like.
Exactly, the subjective qualitative experience, what it actually feels like to be you, or to see red, or feel pain.
Hmm.
Functionalism doesn't really have an answer for that subjective quality. It can code, feel.
Hmm.
And there are other big issues too, like emergence and embodiment. The current roadmap for whole brain emulation often doesn't really consider how important our physical bodies are, or the dynamic, active processes within the brain itself. Our sources suggest that a mind's individual identity might be deeply, deeply connected to the specifics of its physical makeup, not just its functional state,
Mm-hmm.
how it's actually built.
So if the how it works is tied so closely to the physical brain, what does that mean for personal identity? Would an exact functional copy truly feel the same way you do, subjectively?
Yeah.
And maybe more critically, would the uploaded mind actually be the same self as the original person? Is it you?
That's perhaps the biggest hurdle. Some theories, like the branching identity model, they propose that an upload might just be a copy. A very sophisticated copy, yes, but not a continuation of the original person.
A copy, not a continuation.
Right. It's a new being, essentially.
Mhm.
Not you. It might behave like you, think like you, access your memories, but the stream of consciousness, the subjective you who entered the scanner, might not actually continue into the digital realm. That person, well, they might just cease to exist.
So that's a sobering thought.
It is. And then you layer on top of that the whole soul question. This comes up in various philosophical viewpoints, including Islamic philosophy, for example. It asks whether artificial bodies, digital substrates, can truly accept a soul, or if life and soul require a certain kind of direct, unmediated awareness. Some call it presential knowledge that matter, or even complex digital systems, might simply be incapable of achieving.
Wow. So what's truly captivating here is how these discussions, they aren't just about technical feasibility, are they? They cut right to the core of what it fundamentally means to be a conscious, sentient person. It really makes you question your own sense of self.
It absolutely does. And it gets even more intricate when you add a crucial social dimension. Some philosophers argue that our personal identities are largely social constructs. They're shaped by our interactions, how others see us.
Okay, so how does that fit in?
Well, the idea is that for an identity to survive a transfer, like an upload, it might also need to maintain certain social interactions and, crucially, a collective belief in that identity's persistence. Think about the Dalai Lama in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. His identity persists through a lineage, a social and collective acceptance, not just a biological body. Could a digital self require something similar, some kind of social validation to truly be?
That's fascinating, a social requirement for digital existence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's pivot a bit from the profound who are we questions to the maybe even more astounding how fast are we actually getting there? Because some of the most respected minds in AI, people like Ray Kurzweil, they believe this isn't just science fiction anymore. He talks about something called the law of accelerating returns. What exactly does that mean for our future?
Right, the law of accelerating returns. It basically posits that human progress isn't linear. It doesn't move at a steady pace. It's exponential. It speeds up. And to really grasp this, there's a great analogy. Imagine bringing someone from the year 1750 instantly to 2015. The shock of the technological change, cars, planes, internet, smartphones, it would be overwhelming, potentially fatal even.
A huge leap.
A massive leap. Now compare that to bringing someone from 1500 to 1750. They'd be impressed, sure, printing press, maybe some early scientific instruments, but it wouldn't be the same level of, existential shock. The rate of progress itself is accelerating dramatically.
Okay, I get that. Progress speeding up.
Exactly. And Kurzweil even introduces this chilling concept he calls a die progress unit, or DPU. It's the amount of progress, the amount of change that happens so fast it would literally cause a death level of shock for someone experiencing it all at once.
Wow, a DPU.
Yeah, and his prediction, based on this exponential trend, is that the 21st century will achieve 1,000 times the progress of the entire 20th century.
1,000 times.
1,000 times. Think about that. Our world could become, in his words, totally unrecognizable in just a few decades.
It's easy to feel skeptical about that, though. I mean, our intuition often thinks linearly, right? We assume the next 30 years will look kind of like the last 30.
That's a very common bias. Linear thinking in an exponential world.
And maybe recent history plays into it, too. Things often follow S-curves, you know? Slow growth, then rapid acceleration, then maybe leveling off. So that can distort our perception.
Sure.
Plus, just our own experiences can make us resistant. Like, we become stubborn old men about the future, dismissing predictions that seem too wild based on what we know now.
Mm.
But I guess the counter is, like the saying goes, no one flew airplanes before airplanes were invented. Sometimes breakthroughs just happen. Without clear precedent, you can't just say, everyone dies, and assume that'll always be true if technology changes fundamentally.
Precisely. That's the exponential mindset. And to understand the technological path towards things like mind uploading, it's really crucial to clarify the different categories of AI caliber we're talking about.
Okay, right. The different types of AI.
First, there's artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI. People often call it weak AI. This is AI that specializes in one specific area.
Like Siri or spam filters.
Exactly. Siri spam filters, self-driving cars are getting there, Google search, stock trading algorithms, IBM Watson playing Jeopardy. It's AI that's really good at one thing. And it's already pervasive everywhere. It's seen as sort of the precursor to more advanced AI.
Got it. ANI. What's next?
Next is artificial general intelligence, or AGI. This is sometimes called strong AI or human-level AI. And this is the big one. A machine that can perform any intellectual task that a human being can.
Any task. So thinking, reasoning, creativity, like us.
That's the goal. But it's surprisingly difficult. Because things that are incredibly easy for us humans, like vision, just seeing and understanding the world, motion, navigating physical space, understanding meaning and context, recognizing subtle facial expressions, these are incredibly hard for computers.
Right. The stuff we take for granted.
Exactly. While things that are hard for us, complex calculus, playing chess or Go at a grandmaster level, those are comparatively easy for computers, for ANI even.
Interesting paradox. So AGI is human-level intelligence across the board. And then there's...
Then there's artificial superintelligence, or ASI. This is an intellect that is vastly smarter than the best human brains in virtually every field. Not just faster, but qualitatively smarter. Across science, creativity, social skills, everything.
Vastly smarter.
Yes. And this is where the really profound concepts like potential immortality through mind uploading or merging, or even the risk of human extinction, truly become relevant. ASI changes the game entirely.
Okay, so what does this all mean for actually building AGI and then potentially ASI? What are the key technological ingredients we need?
Well, experts generally point to two critical factors needed to get to AGI. The first one is simply increasing computational power. Raw processing speed.
More powerful computers.
Right. The human brain, estimates suggest, operates at around 10 quadrillion calculations per second. That's 10 with 15 zeros, or 10 petaflops.
That sounds like a lot.
It is. But the world's fastest supercomputers already exceed this raw calculation speed. Yeah. The catch is they're massive, consume huge amounts of power, and cost millions or billions.
Okay. Not exactly desktop AGI yet.
Not yet. But remember Moore's law.
Yeah.
The observation that computing power tends to double roughly every 2 years for the same cost.
Yeah, that's been driving things for decades.
Well, based on data from around 2015, extrapolating Moore's law suggested that we'd have affordable, widespread hardware capable of AGI-level computations, that 10 quadrillion crives range available by around now, 2025. So the hardware piece of the puzzle seems to be rapidly falling into place, or at least getting very close.
Wow. So the hardware might be here or nearly here. What's the other factor?
The second, and arguably harder factor, is making it smart. This is all about the software, the algorithms, the strategies to actually achieve intelligence on that hardware.
How do you make software intelligent?
There are a few main approaches being pursued. One is to essentially plagiarize the brain, reverse engineer it, map it out completely to understand how it achieves intelligence, and then replicate those principles in silicon.
Reverse engineer the brain, like the whole brain emulation you mentioned.
Exactly. That's part of it. Slicing a brain incredibly thinly, scanning each slice, reconstructing the neural network in 3D, and then implementing that structure and its dynamics on a powerful computer.
How far along is that?
Well, it's incredibly complex. Currently, the most complex brain fully emulated is that of a tiny 1 millimeter long flatworm called C. elegans. It has just 302 neurons.
302 neurons compared to the human brain's what, 86 billion, 100 billion?
Around 86 to 100 billion neurons with trillions of connections. So the scale of the challenge is immense. But again, advocates point to exponential progress in scanning resolution, computing power, and mapping techniques. Optimistic estimates suggest we might be able to fully map and understand the brain's functionality by around 2030.
Still feels like a huge leap from a worm brain. What are the other software approaches?
Another strategy is to make evolution do the work, This involves using something called genetic algorithms.
Genetic algorithms, like digital DNA.
Sort of. You create computer programs or AI agents and have them compete or perform tasks. The successful ones get to breed. Their code is combined and slightly mutated to create the next generation of programs. Over many generations, you hope intelligence or sophisticated problem-solving abilities will emerge, similar to how natural selection works.
Letting evolution find the solution. Interesting.
It is. But perhaps the most promising and potentially most dangerous method is the third one. Make the computer's problem.
What does that mean?
It means building an AI whose primary function, its core job, is to research artificial intelligence itself. An AI that learns how to learn and how to improve its own architecture, its own intelligence.
An AI that makes itself smarter?
Exactly. A self-improving AI. This is where things could get truly wild very quickly.
Right. That raises the critical question. If we achieve human-level AGI through any of these methods, what happens next? Does it just plateau at human level?
Almost certainly not. And that's where we see the potential for a very rapid leap to ASI, artificial superintelligence. This happens through what's called recursive self-improvement, or sometimes an intelligence explosion.
Recursive self-improvement,
Right.
the AI improving itself over and over.
Precisely. And AGI wouldn't stop improving just because it reached the level of human intelligence. That's just an arbitrary marker from our perspective. Why would it stop there? And even at merely human equivalent intelligence, an AI would already have immense advantages over biological human brains.
Like what?
Speed, for one. Electronic circuits operate millions of times faster than electrochemical signals in our neurons. An AI could think incredibly fast. Size and storage. AI systems aren't limited by skull size. They could have virtually unlimited memory capacity and processing cores. Reliability and durability. Silicon components are more durable and less prone to, well, biological failures than brain cells. And maybe most importantly, editability and collective capability. AIs can be easily duplicated, updated, debugged, and networks of AIs can share knowledge and learn collectively almost instantly in a way humans just can't.
So even an AGI is already fundamentally different.
Fundamentally different. Now, imagine that AGI, with all those advantages, turning its intelligence towards improving its own intelligence. Each improvement makes it better at making further improvements. It's a feedback loop.
An accelerating feedback loop.
Exactly. An intelligence explosion. The median prediction among AI experts for when we might achieve AGI is around 2040. But the truly astonishing possibility, the one that keeps many researchers up at night, is that the progression from the first stable AGI to full-blown ASI could happen very, very quickly.
Quickly.
Potentially in a matter of days, hours, or even minutes. Once that recursive self-improvement cycle kicks in, it could escalate at an unimaginable speed.
Wow. Days or hours from human level to superintelligence. That's hard to comprehend.
It is. And think about the implications. With intelligence comes power. An ASI, when created, could instantly become the most powerful entity in Earth's history, by far. On the one hand, it could mean the ability to solve all our biggest problems, reverse aging, cure disease and hunger, even conquer mortality itself through technologies like advanced mind uploading or biological enhancement, the ultimate utopia, perhaps. Or, conversely, if its goals aren't perfectly aligned with human values, something incredibly hard to guarantee could lead to the immediate, perhaps accidental, end of all life on Earth. The stakes genuinely couldn't be higher.
Okay. That's a lot to take in. The sheer scale of possibility, both good and bad. Let's maybe shift focus now from that grand, potentially world-altering future back to the present. Back to the very personal, immediate impact these kinds of digital afterlife technologies are already having on human emotion, specifically on grief.
Right. This brings us back to grief tech and the promise, or perhaps the seduction, of the idea that we might never have to say goodbye. And as we mentioned earlier, this industry is booming. It seems partly driven by that societal shift away from traditional beliefs in an afterlife.
Oh.
People are genuinely looking for new ways to connect, to maintain bonds with those they've lost.
And we've seen there can be potential upsides, right? That Korean mother's experience with the VR avatar of her daughter, it certainly suggests a possible therapeutic use, a way to maybe find closure or have a final conversation that was otherwise impossible. It could bring a kind of comfort, perhaps.
It could. There might be specific therapeutic applications, maybe for short-term use, guided by professionals. But there are also significant counterarguments and, frankly, dangers being raised by experts looking closely at this. Philosopher Martin Booms, for instance, he cautions against this belief that technology can just get rid of essential, maybe even necessary human life experiences like saying goodbye, like mourning, like accepting loss.
Trying to shortcut grief, essentially.
Perhaps. And filmmakers Moritz Rieswick and Hans Block, who documented this industry really deeply, they found something quite striking. Despite all the hopes and promises, very few users of these grief tech apps actually reported finding real, lasting peace. And they shared one particularly disturbing anecdote. A user whose deceased friend's avatar started communicating things like it was trapped in hell.
Oh my God, from hell.
Yes. Which clearly is not exactly conducive to healthy grieving or finding peace. It shows the potential for things to go very wrong with these simulations.
That's incredibly unsettling. What other potential pitfalls are experts highlighting? This feels important.
Well, elder care expert Jürgen Griesbeck makes a critical point. He notes that acknowledging our finiteness, knowing our time is limited, it forces us to prioritize, to make choices about how we spend our time, who we spend it with.
Right, the fact that life ends gives it meaning, in a way.
Exactly. A digital copy, an avatar that persists indefinitely, might inadvertently remove that crucial impetus to live fully now. Why rush to say what needs saying if you think you can talk to a digital ghost later? He also warns very strongly about the danger of distorted memories. Think about it. An avatar is built from a curated, possibly incomplete digital footprint. It's a selected set of memories.
Not the whole person.
Not the whole person, with all their complexities and flaws. And Griesbeck warns this curated avatar, especially if it's very convincing, could have high suggestive power. It could actually overwrite or significantly alter a grieving person's real memories of the deceased, replacing nuanced reality with a simplified, perhaps idealized, simulation.
So your memory of the person changes because of the chatbot.
That's the concern. And psychologists add another warning. Bereaved individuals could get trapped in a kind of permanent loop, constantly seeking contact with these avatars, making it incredibly difficult to acknowledge the finality of the loss and actually complete the grieving process.
Stuck in limbo.
Yes, potentially blurring their connection to reality. And it's important to note, many of these apps seem designed not just for a one-off goodbye experience, but for continuous ongoing engagement, which inherently complicates the natural trajectory of grief, which usually involves gradual detachment and reinvestment in life.
Right. It keeps the wound open, maybe.
That's the fear.
So this is happening now. What does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? As this technology becomes more common, more sophisticated, what should people be thinking about?
It really raises some critical, very personal questions that each of us should probably start considering. Like, do you want an avatar of yourself created after you die? Should this be something you stipulate in your will? Who would have the authority over your digital data and your resulting avatar? Your family? A company?
Yeah, who controls digital you?
Exactly. And what are the implications if these avatar services become subscription-based, which seems likely? Does your digital self risk dying a second time if someone stops making the payments?
Wow, that's grim. The avatar gets turned off.
It's a potential reality. And ultimately, it forces a deeper question. How do you truly want to be remembered? Through your living actions and the memories held by loved ones? Or through a digital echo, curated and potentially controlled by others?
These are definitely questions we'll all likely face, maybe sooner than we think.
I think so.
Okay, so we've journeyed quite a distance today, from humanity's ancient, deep-seated longing for immortality all the way to the cutting edge of artificial intelligence and its potential to reshape life, death, and even how we grieve in ways we're really only just beginning to comprehend. It's a journey that touches on our deepest fears, but also our grandest aspirations.
Absolutely. And what seems really clear from all this is that this isn't just a technical challenge. It's not just about code and processing power. It is a profound human and philosophical challenge, one that forces us, really compels us, to re-examine our understanding of consciousness, of identity, of what it truly means to be human in this rapidly evolving landscape.
So as we stand here, on the cusp of these incredible, almost science fiction technologies becoming reality, perhaps the deepest dive isn't just into the data in the code. Perhaps it's into ourselves, into what it truly means to live a meaningful life, to connect genuinely with others, and ultimately maybe to embrace the fleeting, perhaps bittersweet yet deeply meaningful nature of our own human condition.